Hello. So I wanted to pop on and do a quick video rant about Taylor Swift because these thoughts have just been kind of bouncing around in my head, and it'd be nice to just get them out. So I read this really interesting New Yorker article, and it was talking about the Eras tour, and it was pretty brief actually, but I guess it just kind of got my mind thinking about like how we regard like creativity and like artistry and like what makes someone qualify to be like a respected artist. And I guess one line that was of particular interest to me in the article, which I hadn't really considered before, is that like regarding her as like very professional is almost like an insult, or is kind of like used as an insult, as if like it's not very natural and that's how it like should be. And she had this like very specific line which she didn't dive into a little bit more, which was something along the lines of like it's derogatory based on the kind of sly way that like men rebranded the term genius to like excuse other men's like bad behavior. And again, like I'm not the writer, I'm not fully sure what she meant by that. I would love honestly a whole piece devoted to it, but it just got me thinking about like who gets to be considered artistic and who doesn't get to be considered artistic, and how like it's not a coincidence that like because she's a woman and because like she kind of treats her work this way, and because it doesn't appear like it just comes naturally and it's just like from the heart and soul, people kind of try to tear her artistry down, or people try to claim that her like creativity is like less than, or just like not as creative, it's manipulative, or it's overly poised. Anyway, so I was listening illegally to her unreleased song You're Losing Me yesterday when I was cooking with Max, and he was like listening to some of the lyrics, and I've told him again and again, I love the song, I love the lyrics, I think it's so good, kind of obsessed with it. I don't know, I think she does a really good job of like capturing the feeling of the loss that she is like exploring in the song. That's besides the point. There's a line in the song that goes like, I know my pain is such an imposition. And after that line, Max was like, wow, kind of fucked up that she like released this song, because obviously we all know what it's about. And this is not a video of me attacking or ranting about Max. I was actually just kind of like, him saying that kind of made me think about, I guess, the inconvenience of her whole situation, that it's like Taylor Swift's entire brand, entire career, and like the reason why she like hits a nerve with so many people is because she writes songs about her personal experience that like really just kind of like reach out and like, pull people into it. Like I can't speak to everyone's experience, but certainly in my experience, it's like she can put words to an emotion or an experience that just capture it so beautifully, and it's just fun to listen to. I'm trying to think of a good word for it. It's just like captivating. She can kind of put words to these experiences and just capture the moment, and in doing so she kind of transports you back to those moments. And there's just something so impressive about that. I think maybe it's because like understanding that other people go through it, and it's kind of like taking up the things that you felt in that moment or the things that you're feeling right now, and it's like that's what she's going through as well. And I guess it just kind of like crash lands you like back down to earth. It's like, oh, I'm a human just like everyone else. Anyway, that's a bit of like my experience of her songwriting, and part of why I like it so much. I also like it like coming from the perspective of like someone who writes and like really likes writing and has written I guess recreationally for several years now. It's really fun to see what kind of devices she employs in order to explore an emotion. Like I feel like I get this like very kind of creative satisfaction listening to her lyricism, because she can find such interesting ways to capture human experiences. Like for example, in the You're Losing Me song, I think the way that she employs like the pause just so wonderfully captures a moment in those kind of like moments of conflict that, you know, before listening to the song I hadn't even thought about, and it hadn't even like occurred to me that that's kind of like part of what that experience is. And not only is it part of it, it's like kind of a really large part of it, that she kind of like goes into the chorus, and it's like there's like it slows down and there's like a pause, and it's kind of like the pause right before like everything's about to change in this like moment of conflict, and there's just like this like moment of like clarity where it's like, whoa, stop, like something huge is about to happen. And I personally have experienced that, and it was so interesting to hear it in a song and be like, holy shit, I'm transported back to that experience now. And like she didn't even have to use like fucking words. Anyway, exciting stuff. But it got me thinking about back to Max's comment. His comment got me thinking about like how her words are like taken up, and like the article was also exploring how you know, her fans like love her for like the intimacy that she brings into the songs, where she's like talking about experiences, like she's like reaching out and touching them. She's like, I've felt the same things that you have. That's, you know, part of her fandom. But then the other side of that is that like because people feel like so intimately enmeshed with her, like you also kind of get like the weird kind of like Swift fandom like takedowns. And she specifically mentioned how like Swifties were pissed off that Joe Alwyn had a picture posted of him on Instagram and he was riding a scooter because she's beefing with Scooter Braun, which is definitely another level. But anyway, it got me kind of thinking about how it's like kind of tough because she's in this impossible position where it's like her whole career is built off of writing about these very intimate, very personal experiences. That is so much of her success. That's so much of her appeal. That's why people love her. But at the same time, she's so popular that there's almost this like kind of moral responsibility assigned to her that like because her fandom will like take up these beefs, even like perceived beefs, and like legitimately attack people on the internet for it. You know, it's like very easy to be kind of critical of Swift for that. And like I don't pretend to like know all the ins and outs of this sort of stuff. Like I don't know if she's acting perfectly. Like I'm not going to claim to say that she is or say that I think that she is. Like I don't really know. It feels like a moral gray area to me. But she is kind of in a tough position, and I think it's interesting that the onus is always kind of lands on like her shoulders. And so Max's comment really got me thinking about how like it's a little bit weird that we've just kind of like skated by the fact that like there are certain like platforms and like technological advances that have facilitated the problematic side of like Taylor Swift's popularity. That like things like social media are kind of infamously known for encouraging really bad behaviors like cyberbullying and just like general online harassment. So I guess I just wanted to connect the two, because I think that, you know, there are spaces on the internet that discuss how like social media is a breeding ground for like cyberbullying. Young girls have like kind of infamously been like killing themselves as a result of like cyberbullying and like online harassment and like all of this stuff, right? Like we have somewhat held, you know, Meta's like feet to the fire about that sort of thing. So it's like that's true. And there's also the spaces on the internet that it's like, damn, like why does Taylor Swift like unleash all of her fans like on her exes and stuff? And it's like, but what if like the platforms that we all engage each other on like didn't encourage this behavior? Because like make no mistake, like if you read about these platforms, if you like really dig into it, I think Ezra Klein has like a couple of interesting episodes on just like social media and how social media really profits off of people acting in ways that they wouldn't necessarily want to. That it's like the immediate gratification is not always aligned with like people's identities and like actual values. And that's what these platforms are literally designed to like addict you to. So, right, if you've got these like platforms that like whose profit models depend on addicting users, and the easiest way to addict users is to facilitate these actions that will prompt immediate gratification, even if the actions aren't necessarily like how that person wants to act or like be in the world, right? Like online bullying, online harassment, like a mean comment. Like there's something exhilarating about like sending the mean comment. I've never done it because it was also very stressful, but like apparently that's a thing. That's like kind of the exhilaration. It's like the internal, like the online conflict, but you're like not actually fully in it. And I think also this like facelessness facilitates this like kind of behavior that like dehumanizes people. So all of this stuff, and I just think it's interesting that we have kind of like almost separated Taylor Swift from that conversation, but I think it's actually so important to integrate the two because they are related, right? That it's like most of her fandom, they are the ones that like take to these platforms and are kind of like, unbeknownst to them, constantly encouraged to like act on their worst impulse, because that's the thing that's going to like keep them coming back. They're going to get like the little bit of immediate gratification that maybe like on the whole doesn't feel very good, but in the moment it kind of like sparks a little bit of like the serotonin or whatever happy brain chemical. So I just wanted to rant about that a little bit, because I'm pretty critical of Meta and like social media more generally. And I think we could afford to be in conversations around Taylor Swift too, because I personally don't want her to stop writing these like very intimate, like beautiful songs about like her human experiences. I really enjoy them. I would rather just ask Meta to make their platform like a little bit more user-friendly and like encourage those companies to rely less on like a profit model that like necessitates, you know, prompting people's worst behaviors. But that also seems like pretty tricky feat. Anyway, that's my rant. Thanks for listening.